Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues now. And make sure to stay tuned to catch me, Mike Gallagher, coming up at 9, only on AM 560, The Answer.
Welcome back to AM 560, The Answer. Amy Jacobson here, Bruce Wolf, and for Dan Proft today, while Dan is seeking out the possibility that he might have a gubernatorial run in his future.
And he's training for the marathon, doing his long run right now. I don't know how
I think he's done with the first 19 miles. Now he's stretching out his hamstrings.
The only guy I know who could actually do his training for the marathon while he's tweeting, because he was also tweeting this morning, about Harvey Weinstein and other things.
Yeah, well, what was Harvey Weinstein's excuse? That was the time.
That he's a fat old bald man. And,
no, he implied that that's what people did back in the 60s.
I grew up in the 60s too, and that was.
Did you learn how to grope women and invite them to take a shower with you?
Look, I read the Playboy philosophy, but it was not legislatively prescribed to do those things, but it certainly was culturally not kosher to do that. And Harvey Weinstein should be ashamed of himself that he used that as an excuse.
Yeah, sick. Bump stocks, a lot of people didn't know what they were before. Yeah, and neither did House Speaker Paul Ryan.
I didn't even know what they were until this week, and I'm an avid sportsman. So I think we're quickly coming up to speed with what this is. Fully automatic weapons have been banned for a long time. Apparently this allows you to take a semi-automatic, turn it into fully automatic. So clearly that's something we need to look into.
Bump stocks are legal to purchase. You normally buy them on the internet for about $100. But now there's talk of banning bump stocks. And
the NRA is on board with
this. Even the NRA. And for more information about the bump stock and what it does exactly and how it works, let's go to Dan Eldridge. He is the owner of Maxson Shooters Supplies and Indoor Range. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good morning, Amy and Bruce. I'll be your stand-in Dan.
Okay. The other Dan.
The marathon, that's for
So tell me, do you sell bump stocks at your store?
We don't. We never have. It's a bit of a niche product. Essentially, what it does is it uses the recoil impulse of a firearm to reset the trigger. That sounds very technical. I don't want to make your listeners' hair hurt this morning, but the ATF has twice, including under the Obama administration, said that it is not full auto and that the firearm is working off the action, the mechanical action of the gun itself. You mentioned that the NRA is on board with the potential repeal of this. I'm not sure that's accurate. I haven't spoken to them, but my read of it is that they've simply said maybe the ATF needs to have another look at this and see if they have the rulemaking authority under the existing statute to address these.
Dan, the bump stock, as I understand, is not really a product so much as it's a technique, and you don't even need the actual bump stock. You can use a belt loop. Moreover, the fact that, using these bump stocks can actually hurt the shooter's accuracy. So it kind of can trip him up. I don't want to be thankful that the guy was using a bump stock, because I'm not thankful for anything that the guy did. But all the law of unintended consequences, you might actually be contributing to the accuracy of shooters if you prohibit bump stocks.
Bruce, that's 100% right. So what you're describing is bump fire as opposed to the bump stock. The bump stock is a device that enables bump fire. Bump fire has been around on semi-automatic firearms since there were semi-automatic firearms. It is horrible for accuracy. It's bizarre that this murderer had very high-end optics on rifles with bump fire stocks on them. Those two things are completely incompatible, and maybe that's just another manifestation of his insanity.
Wow, that's interesting. That's fascinating. It's like stepping on the accelerator and the brake at the same time.
Essentially, yeah. It's not only is it horrible for accuracy, although in this case I don't think this is much of a concern to him. It's also very, very bad for the firearm itself.
But Dan, don't you think that if he had not had bump stocks, he had 12 in his hotel room, 2 were on the, turning the semi-automatic into full automatic. Don't you think more lives would have been saved? Less people would have been shot had he not had the bump stocks?
I wouldn't even want to speculate on that. I'm not an expert in that field at all. Although I have read speculation that aimed fire over the period of time that he was unmolested by the police would have been much more lethal.
Dan, let me ask you a hypothetical. Middle-aged or elderly white guy comes into your store over a period of a few months or a couple of years, and he's buying an awful lot of weaponry, although, maybe that's a judgment as to what's an awful lot. You start getting suspicious?
I'm not going to go into how we would or would not identify a potential a buyer who would be potentially harmful to themselves or somebody else. Doing that in a venue like this would unfortunately just serve to coach somebody with evil intent into how to avoid detection. So I think I'll take a pass on that one.
Wow,
Really?
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate
really,
your candor.
seriously.
But this guy, he bought 33 weapons over an 11-month period in 4 different states, and he stockpiled weapons. But then I know somebody who collects antique rifles, and he's got about 50 guns in his house. I mean, what is the number where you think there might be a problem, Dan?
Well, Amy, you raise a really good point. There's an awful lot of focus on the how in this horrific incident, and what's really a lot more revealing is the why. And we just don't know why right now. Why did he do this? The how can change almost infinitely, but the why is singular. The how can be a bomb, a car, a truck, planes, all of those to act on the why. But we just don't know anything about the how, and I think about the why. And I think that's what we really need to do.
All right, we're learning this morning that he tried to buy tracer rounds at a gun show in Arizona. And what exactly are tracer rounds?
Tracer rounds have a chemical substance that creates a visible trail as the round leaves the rifle. It allows you to see where the stream of fire is going.
Dan, are you amazed at the profound ignorance of the anti-Second Amendment people? It's a knee-jerk reaction. We get this over and over and over again. They still don't know what an assault rifle is.
Oh, and Michael Moore wants to amend the Second Amendment.
Jimmy Kimmel, our national conscience, comes out. I noticed none of the comedians were talking about Harvey Weinstein last night because they want to get acting gigs or whatever. But you see this all the time. They bring up Australia, which of course the murder rate actually didn't go down. The suicide rate did with their confiscation regimen. Here we've actually had an increase in gun ownership, and the homicide rate's gone down. It's I'm tired of rehearsing these arguments over and over and over again. Having said that, I gotta think that if we have something like this happen again relatively quickly, you're going to see an assault on the Second Amendment like you never saw before. Yeah.
Well, Bruce, I agree with you, especially the first part of that. Advancing a political agenda while standing on the bodies of the dead and the wounded is just simply grotesque. What I'm hearing from our customers is that law-abiding Illinois gun owners are simply done with being lectured to about a tragedy that they had absolutely nothing to do with, and lectured to by people who don't have a clue about firearms or the natural right of self-defense and the real grounding of the Second Amendment. People on the right side of this issue, law-abiding gun owners, are really, really getting tired of this kabuki theater that happens every time there's one of these tragedies.
All right, thank you so much,
Dan
Eldridge, for joining us. He is the owner of Maxson Shooter Supplies and Indoor Range, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen